Good evening, and welcome to T.E. Cooke Overton Funeral Home Live Q&A. My name is Renee. I serve as a licensed director and second-generation owner of the firm.
I'm Barry, funeral service apprentice and legal consultant.
Many of you have graciously submitted questions and comments that you would like us to address during the live Q&A. Due to timing and due to the redundancy of some of the questions, we have narrowed down the top questions, hoping to answer tonight.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm excited.
As am I.
Let's get started.
Okay. Well, the number one question that we have been asked online and in person: has a body ever sat up?
Oh, and they do it all the time. We have to keep fighting folks to lay them down.
No, all jokes aside, no, we're just playing. No, a body has never sat up on me.
No, I haven't seen it.
Exactly.
Right.
Just remember, for every cause, there's a reaction.
Right.
Once you are deceased, there's nothing to cause you to sit up.
Right.
Or sat up.
Right.
Okay. And the next second popular question is, I've always wanted to work at a funeral home. How can I get a job at a funeral home? We hear that a lot
yes.
in person.
Yes.
The first thing I always suggest when people do approach us, or at least approach me, I always ask them to submit a resume.
Yes.
That kind of gives us an introduction of who they are and to kind of see what their background is and see if their background, if we can incorporate it and integrate it into our business.
Correct.
Do you have any suggestions, Barry? Because I'm a family member, so I think I have one step up.
Yes.
Whereas you're not a family member, but you like family. You like family.
So I would say research, and find out, what your niche may be, and find out exactly what goes on in a funeral home. I started with education. I went directly to school because I think education is key.
Yes, having that background.
Yes, having a background, because nobody can deny you the education.
Okay.
And so I would highly suggest going back to school if that's something that you would like to do. And because you can always open your own. And so education. And I'm an advocate for TCC's funeral service program, because that's where I went. So education is always key to me.
Yes, and here in Virginia, in the Hampton Roads area, Tidewater Community College, where Mr. Frank Walton serves as the head of the funeral service program. Also, if you are an individual who family patronizes a particular funeral home, I always suggest consider that funeral home, if that is the funeral home that your family patronizes, which means you guys like that funeral home. So why not work for a company that you like? Also remember that in the funeral service industry, you do not have to be a funeral director to work at a funeral home. There are so many roles, such as social media, administrative assistance, security, staff attendant. Those are jobs such as photography, videography. That does not necessarily mean you have to go to school for funeral service.
My grandfather made vaults. And so you can be a vaultsman. So it's so many other things that that encompasses the funeral service industry. And so again, research. So find your niche and get there and get involved in it. I think that's extremely important.
And something that I welcome individuals to do, to shadow us on services.
Correct.
Kind of sit in on some of our services. Everything is public knowledge. Most funerals that are placed online as far as their service details, that means it's open to the public. There's nothing wrong with coming to a few funerals or a few visitations of a firm that you're interested in, just to kind of meet the workers, the staff, and kind of see what their style is.
Exactly. It's all about how you make it.
Yes, and how you present yourself.
Exactly.
The next question, how much does a funeral cost? Well, funerals vary in prices. So many things go into a funeral, as well as the cost of a funeral and a cremation are different because they are two different types of services. But based on this number one question, how much does a funeral cost? We always tell families to consider at least $8,000 for the funeral.
Correct.
That does not include the cemetery. That does not include the flowers. That does not include the lasting tribute keepsakes. This is just for the funeral, things such as the merchandise, the vehicles, embalming, those things. But for a more narrowed answer, please feel free to visit us at 405 Johnson Avenue in Suffolk, Virginia, where we do offer at no expense pre-need consultations, where you can come in and we can actually go through the whole process with you, put it on paper with a price quote.
The next question is, why is a will important? A will is extremely important. I mean, I can go on for days, but a will is important because it outlines exactly what you want to do with your assets, mostly tangible assets. Tangible assets are things that you can actually touch: your home, your car, your jewelry, things of that nature. And also, in many of the wills that I write, I even put your final wishes, your funeral decisions inside of your will, and in one of the clauses of the will. So it outlines exactly what you want to do after you are no longer here. And the good thing about that is it takes away a lot of the strife and strain following your death. And the good thing about that is it is the last note that you leave to your family. And it shows how much you care for your family, but it also what it does is it keeps away the rigmarole that your family will have to go through if there is no will. If you die intestate, there is a lot of paperwork that your family will have to go through if you die intestate. So take away the pain and suffering that your family will have to go through by having a will. A will is not expensive. It's very quick to do, and it's very something that you could do with maybe an hour or two with your legal representative that you and your family decide to choose to have.
Side note, Barry's background is also in the legal profession. He does do our legal work for our family, such as wills,
yes,
power of attorneys,
yes, I do.
Estate planning.
Correct.
So he is available and he is qualified to do those things. So please do not hesitate to give us a call at 757 539 4861, and you can speak personally with Mr. Barry Dowdy.
I look forward to helping you and your family with all of those needs. Oh, well, that goes right into the next question. Can you place your instructions about your funeral arrangements in your will? Matter of fact, I do not write a will unless you place your instructions regarding your funeral arrangements inside of your will. I That's the very first thing in the clause, and it could be very simple. I would like to be cremated, and I would like my cremains to go here. Or it can be very detailed. On one of my wills, provided, hey, it even had a short instructions on what would my service would be like. And I also instruct my clients to take the will and attach it to the pre-planned service, so that if they go down to the funeral home, the funeral director can provide a copy of the will to the loved one, so that they'll see that not only did their mother, their father, aunt, and uncle make the arrangements, but here is a copy of the will. because sometimes wills get lost, sometimes wills are destroyed. And so we can attach that to the will as a part of the prearrangement package. And a lot of funeral directors appreciate that because sometimes there may be an issue, whereas who can make the decisions?
Correct. That does come up a lot.
And so a lot of times, if the individual that is the executor on the will, typically is the person that the individual would like to make the decisions, far as who can make any other decisions outside of what has already been pre-planned.
Okay, so then that goes along with this question here: who should have a copy of your will?
So I would think that the persons that should have a copy of the will are the people that are inside of the will.
That part.
So I tell people that, hey, here is your will. Bring the family together at a family dinner. And give them a copy of the will, but also tell them, hey, I have pre-planned my funeral. And I think all of this should be done all at one time.
Well, Barry, I will say this disclosure. If you're going to bring everyone together during a family dinner, make sure it's just the people that's in the will.
Yes.
Not the people who think that should be in the will.
Exactly.
Because that may cause a little bit of drama over dinner.
Yeah, but I think
some appetites may have been lost.
Yeah, but I think that this is something that needs to be done.
Yes.
Because what happens is mom, dad, sister, and brother needs to know what is done.
Correct.
They need to know the person's heart. But also they need to know, okay, these are the instructions that I have set out in place.
And the worst thing to happen is, not to cut you off, but to piggyback, the worst thing to happen is if someone passes away, Aunt Shirley passes away. We knew Aunt Shirley had a good job, with good insurance. She had beautiful mink coats, beautiful china, fine china, but no one knows anything and everyone's at a loss. So now you have Aunt Shirley's sister, nieces, her first favorite cousin, who was like a sister cousin, feeling like they're entitled to all these things.
Correct.
Or that because they were so close to Aunt Shirley, they know what was best.
Correct.
In her death.
Correct.
And it just leads to a lot of confusion, unnecessary drama. And then they sit at the funeral home, unfortunately, and that's when mean words are said.
Correct.
Feelings are hurt.
Correct.
And poor Aunt Shirley is not resting in peace.
And so the best thing to do is, and in my line of practice, is when we create an estate packet. And in the packet, it is broken up into many different phases. And so the first part will contain the will. The second part may contain, hey, this is my pre-planned funeral, and it has a copy of the pre-planning packet or the insurance packet. The next part may contain, hey, this is my insurance policy. This is this may be a copy of the deed to my home. And so everything is contained here, and it's a copy, not the original.
Correct.
The original should be placed in a safe, secure place, like a safe. But this is a copy of it, and it's everything they need.
And we have some, not to cut you off again, but we do have some families that have met with you or another attorney, and they have brought us a copy.
Correct.
Of their will to put in their file with their prearrangement.
Yes, and it's always good to have a copy for the funeral director, just in case, hey, you may lose it.
Correct.
Or you may be in a good mental state at this point, but Alzheimer's, dementia, or you may get sick and become incapacitated. The funeral director may be a good person to have a copy of those documents, so that if there's any discrepancy later on at a later date, the funeral director had it when she was in her or his right mind, knew the objects of his or her bounty, as we like to say, and knew exactly what they wanted to do at that time. And so it's good to have a neutral party, which at that time, the funeral director or the attorney may be a neutral party, and they have a copy of that packet that has the insurance policies with the correct numbers. They have the will. They have anything that belongs to the estate together. So when the family comes in to say, hey, this is the service date and time, everything else is set there in stone.
Correct.
And so there wouldn't be any issues far as what are we going to do, how are we going to set things in place, because everything is already there.
Correct.
And you also have to remember, your family is going to be grieving.
Yes.
And so you have to consider that if your family is already grieving, clarity of mind is not there during that time. And so we have to consider the mental capacity of individuals at that time to make decisions. And I know it's hard for some people to go into the funeral home and say, oh, I got to pick out my casket. But think about your family hurting at that time.
Right.
And then also, the good thing about us is we are at the time where technology is so high that you don't even have to come to our funeral home to do that.
We can do it through Zoom, which we have, even through FaceTime.
Correct.
And we can do everything from the comfort of our office, and while you're on the other end, from the comfort of your home or choice of place to actually meet with us online. And you're able to see things like our showroom, pictures of our vehicles, our staff. We could do everything remotely.
Correct. And many of my estate planning issues I take care of remotely because a lot of my clients are of an older age. So I can come to you and you come to them as well.
Correct. Yes, we do in-home visits for pre-needs as well as at need, as a courtesy to our families.
And I think that answers the question. Does pre-planning your funeral go along with estate planning?
Yes.
That
they go hand in hand.
Matter of fact, I think that it should be something that everybody should revisit the beginning of the year. As you get through handling your taxes, looking over your W-2s, go through your estate things. Make sure that everything is in place. And then also, people die. And so if your will has somebody that has passed away, then you may want to consider revising it.
Correct.
Because
updating.
Because somebody that person that passed away that's in your will, if they don't get it, it may pass on to what we call the residue. And that residue,
that's a whole nother subject for a whole nother podcast.
So make sure that you are updating all your documents.
Yes.
And you are updating everything at the beginning of the year. So pull that what is it, that trifold out and go through all of those documents at least once a year.
Yes. Okay, good information, Attorney Barry. Okay, I don't want to be buried, but my children want to see me. What options are available to bring them comfort and me peace? Okay, so this is a question that I've heard in the office during pre-arrangements. You have mom, for instance, who's in our office wanting to prearrange her final services. Mom has expressed that she wants to be cremated, but she has her daughter who's in the conference with us who's like, well, Mom, I think we would want to see you. And, my brother who's out of town, if he's in here at the time of your passing, he may want to see you. Well, to answer that question, you can still be seen and still be cremated.
Correct.
So you can have a visitation or a funeral service, meaning a rental casket from the funeral home. And after the visitation or after the funeral, instead of going to the cemetery to be laid to rest, you will go to the crematory.
Correct.
And after which your ashes will be returned to your family.
Correct.
And then you can go a step further and you can actually have your cremated remains divided into jewelry keepsakes,
Correct.
into urns, full size or keepsake size urns, which can be divided amongst your family members as keepsakes.
Correct.
But that does honor both those who would like to see you to bring their peace and comfort, and closure, and then you as the individual who personal wishes are to be cremated. So you can do both, and everyone has peace.
Correct.
Okay. What does pre-arranging a funeral do? Well, pre-arranging a funeral, number one, puts your wishes on paper.
Correct.
You make the decision of how you would like your final services to go. Whether you want a full traditional funeral, whether you want a direct cremation or a direct burial, whether you want a bright red casket or a Prince purple casket, you make that decision and put it on paper. And that allows your family to go by your wishes. So you get to speak even in your death. Right. Now, to lock in the price, there's a difference. If you want to lock in the price at today's prices, then that is called a pre-funded pre-need, where you actually pay into your funeral services before you pass away. And that locks in the price at today's value, hoping that when you do pass away, your funeral, the bulk of it is paid in full. Of course, there are some things that cannot go into a pre-funded funeral that are not guaranteed. And when you come in for your consultation, we'll disclose those things to you. Okay, anything you want to piggyback off of that?
No, I think what the good thing about that is you do not have, you can take the sting out of your children or your loved ones having to go in and pick out a casket for you. And I think it allows it to move a little more smoothly.
Correct. Okay, well, those were the top questions. But I see more questions are coming in. So you know what that means, Barry.
We'll have to save it for the next podcast.
Yes, entitled Beyond Goodbye.
Yes. Starring
myself, Renee, and Barry.
Yes.
So we will be back on a regular basis, not just doing Q&As. We're going to have special guests. We're going to have special topic and segments. This is something new that we are offering through T.E. Cooke Funeral Home to connect with you, our family and friends from near and far, based on inboxes and in-person conversations. Correct. We feel this is like a good way to kind of connect and to answer those questions, but most importantly, to educate and empower our people.
And if you have topics that you want us to cover, send those in.
Yes.
This is your podcast for our people.
Yes. So it's for you. So we want you to tell us and to decide which you want us to speak about and share.
Exactly.
Yes. So we thank you so much for joining us. Our contact information is at the bottom of the screen. Please do not hesitate to call.
Please
stop by, inbox, direct message.
Yes.
We're on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on TikTok. Yes. We're on all of the social media platforms.
Exactly.
So we do thank you for joining us tonight. This was fun.
Exactly. I'm looking forward to the next one.
I am. Stay tuned for the next date. All right, you guys. Get some rest. Good night, and thank you for joining us.